Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Warrior Podcast. I'm Ebony, and I'm here as your wellness facilitator. I'm going to be sharing my experiences in managing Hashimoto's disease. I really hope that it'll help you on your personal journey. Keep in mind, however, this does not substitute for medical advice. It is only for your information and motivational purposes only. Now, let's get started. Now let's continue to dig deep in this topic of how are you? So last week I posed a question of asking how did you end up becoming a yes man or a yes woman? So I went back and I asked myself that very question. And for me growing up, I had the typical brother who always got in trouble. My parents were always looking out for him, trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep him engaged? How do we keep him out of trouble? Why is he being so rebellious? Why is he doing all these things? Blah, 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 blah. So I looked at that and naturally I said, well, I don't want to get in trouble that much. So let me do all the things. Let me do my chores. Let me do all my homework, stay involved in activities, and just not be a bother. But what that ended up doing is it made me realize that I didn't really live the life that I wanted to live. Because from that, what I started doing was I always tried to stay in the background and not be too much trouble. I would always jump to try to volunteer for this and volunteer for that because I didn't want people to have a heavy load and I didn't want them to carry so much. But what I was doing was, even though I didn't want them to carry a lot, I was adding more and more and more and more. And the analogy that I always thought about was when you'd be in the lunchroom cafeteria in elementary school, and I'm pretty sure it's been in a lot of kids' movies, but you see the cafeteria lady dumping on piles of mashed potatoes. And that's exactly what I did most of my life. And it took me up until last year to realize I'm tired of the dumping. My plate is about to break. And that is when I went into my therapist's office and I said, okay, so I need help. Because of everything that had been going on with my family, what I was trying to do was figure out, okay, how do I talk to them? How do I show them that I'm supporting them? And how do I show them that I'm trying to be there and trying to understand their feelings? And by the end of the conversation, my therapist said to me, Ebony, you really don't care about how anyone else is feeling in this moment. And I looked at her and I said, what? She said, let me explain. What I mean is right now, you need to learn how to practice kindness and compassion towards yourself. You have had a ridiculously hard year. And the only person that you need to be trying to figure out how to accommodate is yourself. Period. Stop trying to constantly figure out ways to make everyone else happy when you're suffering inside. It is not fair to you. And what she challenged me to do was write a letter to a very dear friend. So what I had to do was write to that person. And you know that friend that is just having a really difficult time. Everything that could potentially go wrong went wrong. And, you just feel for this person. So what I did was I wrote down and pour out my soul into this letter for this person. And I basically said, you know what? You have been trying so hard and I see it. You give to your friends, you give to your family. You're always going above and beyond. You show up early and you leave late. And I know you're tired and I know you're hurting and I know that you're sad, but guess what? It's going to get better. And here's how it's going to get better. I want to start showing up for you. I'm going to start calling you more. I'm going to show you that I love you by sending you a text message to say, hey, I think you're great. Hey, you're beautiful. Hey, you're my best friend. And at the end of that letter, what I did is I scratched off that friend's name and I wrote my own. So again, That was an amazing experience for me. But then I'm going to push you just a little bit more because I want you to be able to get where I ended up being faster. So the other thing that we were doing in this session, because guys, it was heavy that day, was really sit down and identify why you say yes so much. Is it because of the fact that you have very strict parents growing up? Is it social media? Is it the things that you're seeing in magazines, on Instagram, on Facebook, when you see someone walking down the street? Like, what is it about those things that is hurting you on the inside? Is it pride? Is it your self-limiting beliefs? What are the things that have influenced you up until now that make you constantly want to go and push and prove and prove? Think about it and really honestly answer that. And I've been reading The Miracle Morning, and one of the things Hal said was something along the lines of, our outer world will always be a reflection of our inner world. Oof. So I had to really digest that because, again, that was a lot. And I had to think about what my inner world looked like, but I'm challenging you to think about that as well. What does your inner world look like? And once you start to take everything that I've said thus far in terms of figuring out what has led you up to this point of being a yes man or a yes woman, and then identifying what your inner world looks like, that is where your healing process starts. And that is where it started for me. And when I tell you I did not want to do that, I did not want to do it. I didn't want to write that letter. I didn't want to identify these things. I didn't want to acknowledge that perhaps maybe it was my pride that was stopping me from being my best self. I didn't want to acknowledge that part of the problem was me. And that took a second for me to really and truly digest. So understand that as a result of doing these exercises, it's tough. I cried like a baby. And I woke up the next day, my eyes were swollen, my chest hurt, my joints hurt. It was insane. But on the opposite side of that, I feel so much better now than what I felt in years. But it's up to you to take that next step to say, this is who I am, and to say, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to be. You have to then own that and make sure that that is your truth. So I know that I gave you guys a lot today, but it's so important. It's so necessary. So with that, what I want to do is just recap for a quick second. So what I want you to do is write a letter to a very dear friend and really go in and tell them how wonderful they are, how you're going to start checking on them. You're going to start taking better care of them. You're going to start really showing them what friendship looks like, what love looks like, and what all those things could be and what their life is going to be like. And at the very end of that letter, I want you to strike out their name and write your name in there. Once you're done with that, I want you to answer this question. What does your inner world look like? And do you like it? So what does your inner world look like, and do you like it? And write that letter to yourself. You can email me at ebonycolina.com with a copy of your letter, and you can also share with me some of the answers to the question that I just asked. But guess what, guys? I'm here for you, and I'm not going anywhere. So with that, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Okay, Thyroid Warriors. Get out there and take things one step at a time. Remember, be great, reflect on your triumphs, and as always, be well. Take care.